Okay, so as I've reiterated, or let me reiterate the point that risk is the possibility of a loss resulting from an event or a situation. Okay, so examples could be theft, fire outbreak, flooding, any other form of natural disaster that may occur, earthquake, etc. Okay, we have change in government policy. Okay, because if a change in government policy will lead to a business suffering a loss, then that is a risk. A typical example is what happened in the banking sector, where the government changed its policy, regulatory policy, that the banks are supposed to increase their minimum deposits with the central bank or the Bank of Ghana. This led to a lot of the banks being shut down. Okay, so this situation led to the banks suffering, and for that matter, was a risk to the banks. Okay, I hope it makes sense to you, Prof. Ekuya and Prof. Josephine. Hello, are you there?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. So, if these events are bound to happen and will cause the business to suffer a loss.
Sir.
Yes, Josephine.
Sir.
Please go ahead, I'm listening.
Sir.
Okay, I can hear you, go ahead.
I can't even hear. Sir.
I can hear you, can you hear me? I think her network. But I hope Ella and Ekuya, you can hear me.
Yes, please.
Okay. So, the essence of knowing this risk is for us to manage it, right? So, risk management refers to the process whereby a business puts in measures and strategies to prevent or reduce the effect of risk occurrence. That is to say that some risks are bound to happen. You can't prevent them. They would happen, right? It's like you can't prevent the rains from coming down. So you can't prevent flooding. You can only try to manage the impact or the effects. So risk management is geared towards reducing the effect of such risks that are bound to happen regardless. There are also some that you can prevent or avoid, okay? So you put in measures to prevent them. So went on to the types of risk, And as Ella stated, we have the speculative risk, the pure risk, fundamental risk, personal risk, and liability risk. So Prof. Ella, I would want you again to briefly explain these types of risk to us. Okay, so Ekuya, if you have questions as she explains, you ask.
Yes, please.
Prof. Ella, please unmute. Josephine, you were trying to say something. If you can hear me now.
Yes, please. You were asking whether we are getting me, and I said yes.
Okay. So, Prof. Ella, we are waiting. Yes. Oh, Ella is gone. Okay, so the types of risk. The first one is speculative risk. We say this is a type of a business risk where the business has the chance of a gain or a loss. However, the outcome is uncertain or unknown. So pay attention here. When we talk of speculative risk, we are saying it is that type of risk where there is a possibility of you gaining or losing. So there are two outcomes. It's either you gain or you lose. However, you cannot estimate the certainty of that occurrence. Okay. As you don't know whether you are going to lose or gain, but in the end, you are either going to gain or lose. I don't know if it makes sense to you. A typical example is somebody who does lottery. When you do lottery, it's either you win or you lose. And the betting sites, okay, if you bet, it's either you gain or you lose. So it's a speculative risk because there's a possibility that you lose or you gain. Just that you cannot state for a fact that you are going to win or you are going to lose. Is that okay? The second one is pure risk. Pure risk. We say this refers to a situation where there is the possibility or there is a possibility of a loss or no loss, but no possibility of gain. So under the pure risk, you don't have any possibility to gain anything. It's either you lose or you didn't lose. I don't know if it makes sense to you. So it's either you lost something or you didn't lose anything, but you don't stand a chance of gaining anything. Okay, a typical example is let's say when there's flooding. When there's flooding, you don't stand to gain anything. It's either you lose your properties or you were fortunate and you didn't lose anything. So that's pure risk. It's either you lost or you didn't lose anything, but you don't stand a chance of gaining anything. Unlike the speculative where you can gain or you can lose. Here, you cannot gain. It's either you lose or you didn't lose anything. That's pure risk. The third one is fundamental risk. Now, it refers to the basic underlying risk that affects the stability of a business. Let me explain this point so well. Using certain career paths. If you are a footballer, right? By the nature of your work, it's either somebody would boot your legs or somebody will headbutt you, okay, because that event is part of your activity. Another example, if you're an electrician, okay, it is a fundamental risk that you may get electrocuted. If you are a chef, it is fundamental that you may get some burns from the heat of the stove or maybe hot oil. So these risks are fundamental, they are basic, okay, to the type of business you are doing. So we refer to them as fundamental risk. You can refer to them as basic risk as well. Please, do you understand this one?
Yes.
Okay. So if you are running a cold store, what are some of the fundamental risks you can speak about? A risk that by the nature of that business you are doing, there's a possibility that it will happen. I'm teasing your brain, so tell me something. Yeah, Professor.
So there is a risk that let's say if ECG they take their light, your staffs may get spoiled. Even if you try to use generator or other means, it will still not really work out good. So that is a risk.
Okay. Thanks for that thought, Prof. Ekia. Do you have anything to add?
No, please.
Oh, but you need to say something. If you are running a coaster, what is the possible risk you stand to suffer, or what possible loss do you stand to suffer, which is very fundamental or basic to the coastal business you are running?
I would have said the power outages as well, but then Prof. Ella has already.
Okay.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Okay. Prof. Josephine, yourself?
My network was not stable. Please,
Oh,
can I
okay.
hear the person again?
Yeah, so, but did you get the bit about fundamental risk?
No, it was breaking.
Okay, so we are saying that this risk is basic to the type of business you are doing or the type of operations you are involved in. So, example, if you are an electrician, by nature of your work, you stand the risk of, touching a live wire and you get electrocuted, right? If you're a boxer, you stand the risk of probably losing your jaw teeth or getting some I don't know how to put it, but getting some blows to your chest and your cheeks, etc. It's a fundamental risk. It is inherent in the thing you do. Okay, so I was asking that if you are running a cold store, okay, what fundamental risk can you speak of or talk about?
Ooh, um, it's not coming.
It's not coming. Okay, great. So yes, Ella and Equia speaks of the power outage, but power outage, I don't think it's so fundamental to a coastal. Rather, the fish getting rotting. I think that's the bit you were all leaning towards that, but you were fixated on the power outage, right? So what is fundamental is the fact that some of the fishes can get rotting. Okay, so you stand the chance of suffering that loss because you are running a coastal. If you are running a boutique, you don't stand the chance of anything getting rotten because the clothes, the shoes, etc., are not perishable, right? Okay, so that is for you to appreciate the fundamental risk. Okay, so I think we are now okay with the fundamental risk. Let me give another example. If you were operating, if you are a maize crop farmer, right? Maize crop farmer. What are some of the fundamental risks you can think of? Now, just to clear the point, the power outage thing, I think is fundamental to every business. Okay, it's fundamental. It's a basic risk all businesses face, power outages, because ECG can do their thing anytime. Okay, but specific to the coastal, then some of the fundamental risks should be specific risk inherent in that nature of business. So now let's look at a crop farmer, maize crop farmer. What are some of the risks that you know? No ideas. Also, pest infestation is one. Okay, the maize crops may be infested by a pest. Yes, Professor.
Well, some people living in some places like a farm place and the rest, they find it difficult. Most farmers over there always complain of water shortage. So to them, it is one of the disadvantages.
Okay, okay, okay. So let's move on. 4 is personal risk. We say that this risk or loss affects individuals. That's why it's personal. So it is to specific individuals. They suffer that loss. Okay, that particular loss affects just an individual. Okay. So for example, in a business, if for example we have a bus and there's this driver who drives the bus, conveying goods maybe to our customers, then that individual, that particular driver stands the risk of maybe getting involved in an accident, right? So such a risk will be so personal to that individual. So examples are like accidents. Okay, when people get involved in an accident, they seem to be prone to personal risk. They might lose their hand, their leg, etc., even lose their life. Okay, the 5th one, liability risk. Now, this type of risk is one that causes financial loss to an individual or a business. So my phone issue, okay, this repairer is causing me a financial loss to the point that I have to go and buy a new phone. So that's a liability risk. If the event or situation leads to a financial loss to the business, then that is a liability risk. So these were the types of risk that we discussed. Ella, you want to ask a question? You have your hand up.
No, please.
Okay. So we looked at the steps to deal with risk, the steps, and there were 3. The first one is you have to identify the risk. Okay, so you have to identify it. What is the risk involved? So if you are going to do any business, you have to, find information and identify all the risk associated. So if it's a coastal, you have to know the kind of risk or losses you may incur. Okay, be it speculative, pure, or fundamental, you have to investigate all that and identify the risk involved. When you identify the risk involved, you evaluate. Why do you evaluate? So if it is about the fish is getting rotting, then you look at, okay, is there an alternative? Is there something I can do to prevent the fish from getting rotten? Do I have to use a bigger fridge? So you do evaluation of the risk and various means and ways to go around it, right? Then the 3rd one is you now take the action of managing the risk. And you can manage risk through 1, avoidance, reduction, retention, and transfer. Okay, you can avoid it, you can reduce it, you can retain it, or you can transfer. So risk avoidance is that management of risk where the business puts in strategies so that the risk does not even occur in the first place. So if it is power outage, there's a way we can avoid that by way of getting a plant so that when the mainstream ECG power goes up, we fall on the plant. But the question is, what if the plant also gets spoiled? So it means then we may have to get 2, 3, or more plants so that when one is not functioning, we run onto the other. When you do put in these strategies, you seek to be avoiding the occurrence of the power outage, which will put you at risk of losing your fishes, etc. So that's risk avoidance, a typical example. Another one is if I know that I enter the boxing ring and I'm going to sustain certain injuries around my head, my jaws, then I can avoid that risk by not entering the ring or not even going for the boxing match in the first place. That's risk avoidance. Okay. For businesses, if I enter into this contract and I know that it is going to bring losses, then I will not go into that contract. That is risk avoidance. 2 is reduction or control. Now, the reduction scheme works perfectly in situations where you have no control over. So they are bound to happen. The only thing you can do is to reduce or control it. Example is the occurrence of natural disasters. You can't control them. So what you can do is to reduce the effect or the impact they have on you. So if it's flooding, then maybe you try to create waterways, etc. Okay, but you see, recently there was flooding in a part of Spain. I don't know if you heard it. I think Valencia. How many of you heard it? You ask yourself, an European country like Spain getting flooded. It doesn't sound okay, because those people are very much on top of their game. Yet still, it happened. Okay. I think last year there was some in Germany, etc. So there are some risks that you cannot prevent, so you cannot avoid. You just have to reduce or control. The third one is risk retention. Risk retention is where you know the risk is going to occur, so you just agree and accept to deal with it. Okay, so the examples I gave, if you're a boxer and you enter the ring, you know that definitely you are going to incur some blows. So you just have to deal with it. So that's risk retention. You try to accept and deal with the losses that are coming. Okay. Then the fourth one is risk transfer. So this one, the business tries to shift the loss to another party. Okay. And this can only happen when you do insurance. And that got us to the discussion of insurance. I think, Professor, today you are doing revision. Okay, so dear professors, let's meet in the second session and start discussion on the insurance quickly, then we can continue. Any question, especially from Prof. Ekuya?
No, please.
Okay. Let's meet in the next session and then we'll continue from there.